Welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for tuning in, and today we'll be working on the CBR 250R. We are going to be changing all of these items, including the fork seals, because they are leaking. And the main reason why we have the motorcycle on jack stands is because this thing does not work with my bike. Motorcycle stand doesn't work with my bike because these hooks right here only hook onto a bike that has like little things that pop up that you can slide it onto. And the reason why we need it on jack stands is because we do have to raise the front of the bike because we have to change those seals. I've never worked on a bike before, but hopefully it's not going to be too difficult. So we're going to start with the fork seals because I think that's going to be my hardest job today. We're going to start by loosening up this bolt right here. You don't have to take this off fully, we just have to loosen it up a little bit. We take it off at the very end once the fork is out. Now we're going to start removing everything from this section right here because we do have to take the wheel out so we can loosen up the fork and it just goes down through the bottom. So we have to remove the splash cover, the caliper, and then loosen up the bolt, take the wheel off, and then we should be able to loosen a few more nuts, and then this should just slide out. Let's see if it works out. Motorcycles are definitely pretty interesting because it seems like it's held on by these Allen screws and nothing else. Yay! The next is going to be taking the Nissan brake calipers out. It's pretty easy, they're just held on by 3 different bolts. And also have some bungee cords ready so you can actually leave the caliper hanging. If you do just let it hang from the brake lines, they might crack and they will leak a little bit of fluid, so it's better to just put them on bungee cords, even though the caliper is super light. I actually couldn't find any bungee cords, so I'm going to make some of my own with zip ties. Zip ties hold everything. They can even hold this caliper with ease. The next is going to be this nut bolt that you have to use a breaker bar for. Once you take that nut off, you have to raise the motorcycle up so the front wheel is off the ground, and then you can take it off. So now we have to loosen up this bolt right here so we can remove this. This is all loose now. So now we just have to take that bolt off, and then everything should just slide down. There is a little clip that we have to take off right here, this copper one. We could just split it apart and then take it off, and then this should just slide down. I actually tried removing the fork with the wheel on. I thought it would not be in place, but unfortunately that didn't work out. And that was my first sign that my plan was not right and I needed to do something else. But I kept going, and unfortunately that bit me in the butt. Yeah, don't save money on stands and stuff. Do it the right way. I almost broke my motorcycle and my car that is parked on jacks if I didn't catch that. God damn. And look, the fork came out. It just needed to almost fall for it to come out. That's good. Good thing we put the zip ties on so the brake line didn't break. That's good. And at this point, I thought I definitely saved the bike, but approximately 30 seconds later, this happened. Please do not raise the bike with the jack like I did. The bikes can lose balance with ease. There are only 2 wheels, and I should have thought of that, but I decided to ignore those and save a little bit of money on a stand. Please do not save any money on safety, especially when working on motorcycles, cars, and other heavy equipment stuff. I definitely got lucky that the bike did not crush me when I was under it and I saw it in time, but it could have ended very badly. So please remember, never skip steps on safety. But since that happened, the only thing I have to do now is find a way to lift the bike safely and to make sure that it doesn't crush me again. I'm also going to show you the whole entire process of how I lifted the bike up because it was actually a lot harder than I thought it was. The bikes do not have a lot of exposed frame where you can start lifting the bike from. I even had to grab a third jack, which was from just like the normal car jack, so I can fit it in nicely underneath that one little support frame underneath the radiator, so I can lift up the bike that way. And once I did that, I had to remove the plastic covers that were on the side to reveal more of the frame so I can actually fit jack stands at an appropriate area. And I did manage to do this, which was a big relief for me. Oh. We did it. We saved it. It's fully on jack stands. I placed the front jack stands, one here and one on the other side, and it's supported by this frame right here. So this is super durable. The only thing I have to do now is just raise it up and make these jacks higher so I can play around with the forks so I can then put that wheel in. So let's do that. But it honestly seems fine. There's not a lot of scratches or anything. I think everything should buff out. I already said this in the other videos, but this was a rookie mistake. Don't save money. Buy a proper jack and make sure that it works with your bike. It can literally save your life. And also, don't necessarily learn from me. Learn from my mistakes and make sure you guys do not go through this. Thank God everything was okay, and most importantly, I am safe. But this definitely could have ended badly, so make sure you guys do use the right equipment and don't put yourself in this position. All right, let's get back to it, and then we can finally start disassembling the fork seal. All right, let's finally start changing the seals of the shock. We first begin by taking an Allen key in from here and just loosening it up for now. Once you loosen up the top nut, a lot of the fork oil will come out, so make sure you dispose of it appropriately. After that, you can start taking off parts, but make sure when you take them off, you put them in the order that you did take them out, because putting it back in is going to be a lot of work if you did not organize it appropriately. Once we take everything out from the top part, the bottom part is separated by a dust seal, and then we can separate both parts. This would be a good time to check individual parts you took out of the fork to make sure there's no damages to them, no scoring, or no scratches. These parts have very tight tolerances, so you have to make sure that they are perfect when you're putting them back in. And then make sure you clean individual parts with brake cleaner or anything you guys usually use. This is what I got from Honda Parts. And we are going to be replacing these two parts right here, which is the dust seal and the actual oil seal. All right, now putting everything back together. I didn't buy a special driver to put the new seals in, but there is another way that I found using electrical tape. So I'm going to demonstrate that when I'm going to be inputting everything in. I'm going to put the bush in first. Then we're going to put this gasket thing for a second. Now we're going to put the new seal, and there's only one way of putting the seal in. If the seal doesn't go on from the top for you guys, for whatever reason, for me it went on with ease, you can put some normal tape on it and apply a little bit of grease, and it should slide through, skipping all of these divots. But if you push it in, it should go in. And now we can put the bushing on and then slide the bushing into the bottom part of the fork. The electrical tape pretty much replicates another seal on top of it while we'll be jamming the whole entire strut into that seal. So hopefully it'll just push it in. So just make sure the electrical tape is not thicker than the actual diameter of the outer seal. And we have to beat it until we are able to put that clip back on. If you guys do have a vise accessible, you can clamp the vise onto the bottom part of the fork and then use your hands to push it in. But if you guys don't, you can just stand up and push it in as well, until you see the divot of where the clip can go in. And now it's time to go in the reverse order and put all the parts back into the fork. And this is why it's so important to put everything in order, so you can just put everything back in. And now it's time for the fork oil. I put approximately 313 mils of fork oil as per factory spec, which ended up being the perfect dampening amount, and the fork is complete. All right, since this is done, we can now switch to changing the spark plug, the oil filter, and the engine filter. Everything else should be easy moving forward, except for the spark plug. Spark plug is actually connected underneath the gas tank, which is going to be, I think, a little problematic. Engine filter should be connected right underneath the seat, and then the filter is right here, and then the drain bolt is just below that. Let's start doing that, and I think I should be able to put everything back together in one day.
See if that works out.
You're going to start by taking the rear storage compartment out because that will reveal two bolts that can reveal the seat. There are only two Allens holding the seat in. Once you take those out, there's two bolts holding the air filter cover and you can just slide out the air filter.
I think this was definitely changed. I don't think this is like 20 years old or anything like that, which is a good sign. So I think this was changed about 10 to 15,000 kilometers ago. And the motorcycle has 19,000 kilometers. So good thing that we're changing it now. Now, to take this guy off, there are two screws right here and right here, which should reveal more screws underneath this thing, I believe.
And I was right. Thank God these motorcycles are pretty common sense and easy to work on.
Now we have to take these three bolts out. And also these two at the back. If you guys are changing the spark plug, don't fill up your tank right before doing the job because my tank is full right now, so it's really heavy. So make sure it's empty before you guys do the job.
Once you move the gas tank out of the way, the spark plug is
right there. So unfortunately, there is this cover here where the spark plug is under, and taking this part off is actually really tricky, but it does have some holes on the side here that I can extend over and then fit a socket through. So I'm probably just gonna do that instead of taking it out.
And this plan definitely worked. Just make sure you do have a lot of extensions and you are using the spark plug socket because the spark plug will slip out. And in my case, the spark plug was still slipping out. So I put a little bit of electrical tape at the end of it and I finally got success.
Nice.
The piece of tape worked. And I love comparing the new spark plug to the old ones to see what their life was. And it seems like the one on the left lived a pretty long life.
All right, that's all done. The next thing I have to do is change the oil, the engine oil filter, and the gasket that it comes with. But for me to do that, I need to move the bike over to this way, which I'm really scared about. But to fix that issue, I got a proper lift. This one can actually just rest on top of the frame and it does not need the spools. So now we're finally gonna do it safely. I've learned my lesson. But to do that, I need to put the front wheel on, I need to disassemble absolutely everything, and then I can actually move the bike over to this side. So let's start doing that.
Putting the plastic parts back on the bike was a bit tricky because I kept forgetting what part overlapped with, but once you do play around with it, it was not as hard as I thought it was. Now, this is the important part. You do need to raise the bike from both sides because you do not want it tipping over in one direction or it will fall again. Once the front is raised, you can finally put that wheel on, put the spindle on, and then make sure you torque the nut to the appropriate factory spec. And now you can put the plastic parts on. And once we move the bike to the middle of the garage again, we can find the drain bolt and start draining the oil.
So it's dirty.
Good thing we're changing that dirty oil. Now we can change the oil filter, which is located behind this cap right here. It's held on by 4 bolts, but make sure you do take it out in the same order it came in because there are a lot of components attached to it. And once the cap will come out, you will see the oil filter and the oil filter gasket. And once you take the filter out, it is going to be spring loaded. Make sure to not lose that spring. And here's the new filter. It's red, so it looks much better. Make sure you do clean up the area very well because it will create leaks if you do not clean the gasket area. And now we can put those 4 bolts back in and finally put some fresh new oil in. And this oil really confused me because it was red when it came out, which reminded me of transmission fluid. But then when I've done my research, apparently Motul does create red engine oil fluid for this type of bike. And there is a little glass opening to tell you how much fluid you put in, and the top notch means that it's full, which is perfect. And finally, the very last part I need to put back on the bike before it's fully complete.
Let's start her up. Oh, I killed the battery.
And right when I was excited to finally start the bike, the battery was dead. And the battery is located right underneath the seat, and you can connect it straight to the car with jumper cables.
Yes. Of course we have to do this at 1:30 a.m.
Let's finally take it on a test drive.
right, this bike drives and rides absolutely flawlessly, especially after I fixed all of those issues. I definitely feel a big difference. The only thing this bike needs is a good wash and then it's ready for sale. Unfortunately, I'm not going to do that in this video because I'm running out of time and I have to move out of the garage as soon as possible, and I still have another car to fix. You guys are obviously wondering how much did all of this cost, so let's go do a price breakdown. Alright, as you guys remember from the last video, we bought on the bike for $2,800, and then we had to include all of the parts, which consist of fork seals, air filters, spark plugs, oil filter gasket, an oil filter, fork oil, engine oil, and also change that rear wheel tire. We also had to obviously register the bike and pay insurance for it and also put a plate on it. And in that 4-month period, we have paid $79 for everything. So now the grand total of the whole entire bike is $3,348.69. And for a bike that is a Honda, that is super reliable, that only has 19,000 kilometers on it, and that is in a perfect condition, I think this price is an absolute steal. What do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments below. And that will be it for this video and also for this motorcycle. This is probably the last time you guys are going to see the motorcycle. If you guys do want to know how much I do sell the bike for, follow me on Instagram because I'm going to make a post on the motorcycle and I'm going to state down in the description how much I've sold it for. To make cool content on it, like car content, motorcycle content, so you guys are not going to regret following. If you guys did enjoy the video, please click subscribe, like the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.